got an update from a fail from last week, a fail that I really wouldn't call much of a fail, and our editor got a 3D printer, and he's having a couple of problems. All this and more, PrintFix Friday, episode 86. Let's get into it. Hey guys, welcome back to the channel, and if you're new here, make sure to leave a like and get subscribed because we're going to be talking all about print failures and how to fix them. That's what we do here on PrintFix Friday. We got a couple of good ones this week, including an update to one of my fails from last week where we had some issues with our bamboo, which thank you to all of you that did comment. We've got a couple of working theories that we're kind of getting through to see what the issue could be. Everything from our ambient temperature is just too high, which I'm not fixing. That's not my damn problem. That's the machine not being able to operate at ambient temperatures. We've got issues in the AMS causing too much pressure and too much drag on the filament, which is pretty much my best working theory at this point, and the AMS being really picky. So if you do want to see a video on the Hydra AMS, which is pretty much a necessity at this point from what I'm learning from people that have done them, let me know, and we'll get one of those rolling on the bamboo because it should be making its own replacement parts, right? That's really only the right thing to do. But what is also the right thing to do is tell you about our sponsor, 3D Musketeers. If you are looking to get 3D printing done by professionals, you can reach out to us at 3D Musketeers. In fact, you're gonna see what happens when you do coming up, because it's the first fail. We have over 45 3D printers and over 40 years of combined experience helping people and companies just like you solve those painful problems with purposeful solutions utilizing technology like 3D printing, CNC milling, laser cutting, high-end 3D scanning, and of course, full art-to-part rapid prototyping to make awesome every single day. I would say that we are now also offering painting, but I really don't want to do much more painting. I suck at it. I'm pretty sure our painter hates us after this last job. But if you are looking to get some of those services done, make sure to hit us up. Links are in that description down below. And if you're not, but you're looking to support the channel with a couple of bucks, you can utilize Patreon, YouTube channel members, and now PayPal for as little as $1 a month to support the efforts that we do here and get access to behind the scenes content. Over 3 hours of additional footage from the Rocky Mountain Rep Rap Festival is slowly being edited and uploaded into Patreon. So if that is something that you want to see, go head over there, get subscribed at the $5 tier and higher, and you'll get access to hours of POV footage of us walking through some awesome places in and around Denver, Colorado, because it is pretty cool. And I think you guys are really going to like it. We're going to start doing that from now on when we go to places, is do some point of view footage so you can literally come along these walks with us as well. But if you're not looking to support us financially, we totally understand. And if we have earned it, a like, subscribe, and hey, a share goes a long way to helping the channel grow, because we are on a path to hitting 100,000 subscribers by the end of the year, and we are looking for more channel sponsors. So if you've got any companies you'd like to see us work with, let us know in those comments down below as well. But let's get into an update. Last week, we talked all about my failures with my bamboo, my sovels, and my Prusa. We just were not getting the quality that we were expecting. We were getting parts that looked kind of crappy, ones that didn't finish, and I particularly showed you guys failures from the bamboo. While I haven't exactly figured out what causes some of these failures, I know on the Prusa and on the Sovel, it was a retraction issue. It was a lot of retractions happening over and over and over again because the part has a ton of detail. Check it out. So we can finally talk about this because you can see it. This was parts for the City of Tampa Bay, the seal that they used for the City of Tampa Bay. And it was all printed in single color and then hand painted. So this is already primed. This was option number 2 for the red. We didn't go with this red. This red was a little too orange for us. And everything was hand painted. And I want to thank my team because everybody kind of came through and did great jobs. This was actually done by my brother's SV06 Plus. The part looks absolutely beautiful. Gorgeous work. We don't know why the SV06 Plus has better success than the SV06, but we're going to be looking into it. I did end up getting a successful bamboo print, and that is ultimately what we ended up using, but it was not at 80 microns. It was at 120 microns, which we got successful on all of the other printers as well. So fun things. The exterior pieces, we had some small issues. In fact, I believe, yep, it's this one. You can see that on the back of one of those parts, we had a bit of a print failure, but realistically, it didn't show up on the front side, so it wasn't that big of a deal. This is the kind of thing that we do here at 3D Musketeers, and sometimes we can't talk about a lot of the fun stuff, but when it goes public like this, we absolutely can. So I want to give a huge thank you to my brother, Jonathan, the painter on the project, Eris Creates, and Guppy from the Table Flip Foundry Discord, who did all of the design work from the high high-end 3D scan from our Artec Eva that we did. Now, we're still working on finalizing a potential video over this project, so we'll let you guys know when and if that actually happens. But yeah, this was pretty cool. I didn't know what the project was for. I just knew that they needed it fast, and it was actually for the inauguration of Mayor Jane Castor for her second term as mayor of the city of Tampa Bay. It's really cool to see our piece front and center, and we can see that seal was actually there the entire time. It's right there. I retweeted it, was very happy, and it's always cool when we get to talk about these awesome products. And the city of Tampa, that's a prime Parks and Recs meme for a city, so it's even cooler, but it should have come from the Parks and Recs City of Tampa Twitter page, because that would have been even funnier. I'm very happy with the work that the team did. Suffice to say, it was quite a few late nights involved in this, and lots of spares. But that's what you do when you're in this for a business. The extra cost of these materials is insignificant. You guys know the cost of materials. You know what this stuff costs. What would be really significant is if something really went wrong and we weren't able to deliver when we said we could. Now, we were right there on the deadline. I mean, they needed it by 7:30 in the morning and they got it right after midnight. So yeah, it came down to the wire. And my hope was that we were going to have more time, because I was expecting at least one of our 4 prints to succeed from when I was gone in Colorado. As of course, you know from last week, which we'll card to so you can take a look, that it didn't happen. But what did happen is I got a new camera. So hopefully you guys are enjoying that new look. It's so different now, but the quality is much better. I am so proud of our team. So thank you guys for pulling this one together at the last minute. Eris, thank you for all the work you did on the painting. It came out stellar. And Guppy, dude, like this whole design with the specific keyways and utilizing these actual little, I assume they're just some sort of brass button to hide the seam, is just bloody brilliant, because everything fits together perfectly. And it's a natural seam. You're expecting a seam there. So when it's fully painted, it just goes away. It's a natural shadow. That's pretty cool. It reminds me that I suck at painting, and it's one of the few skills that I would love to learn, but I don't have any skill for it. So yeah, I was very, very excited with this, and they were incredibly pleased. So this is kind of the work that we do here that we're able to talk about. I figure it bears witness to talk about it from time to time when we are able to. So 1, you guys can see what we do, but then 2, kind of understand the story behind it. This is one of the pieces that, well, one of the Prussias did. And you can see how here on this edge, the actual brass dots themselves started to warp up. So the entire part has actually warped significantly. We'll see if we can, yeah, there you go. You can actually see the warp there. I don't know what caused this. This is all PLA, so it shouldn't just warp for no reason. I don't know if there was a draft in the room or something, or just bad vet adhesion. That first layer looks fine, so who knows? Sometimes printers get angry at you, and I swear it only occurs when you are under the gun on really tight deadlines. So let me know what you guys would do differently in a situation like that, other than probably not agree to projects like this. But I really wanted to work with the city of Tampa, and this was a cool job, and I look forward to more in the future. But man, it was a lot of work. But I'm really glad that we have an awesome team that brought it together. So thank you all for your assistance. I'm gonna stop patting everybody on the back for this, even though I'm very proud. I'm tired, but I'm really proud. Dude, that end result just looks so damn good. This is all hand painted. Think about that. It's not full color 3D printer. I have a full color 3D printer. We opted to do single color 3D printing because it would be way, way, way stronger and more resilient in the long run. Also, that printer is basically set up and ready to be sold. If anyone is interested in buying a full color 3D printer, hit me up. They're not cheap. Like, they're $70,000 brand new. So if you want one, hit me up. And no, I will not accept anything under $25,000. It's not happening.
They're usually silver.
So again, thank you to the 3D Musketeers team and others that we brought on to make this project happen. Failures suck, but it's part of the job, and that's why it is good to have lots of printers, to make lots of parts, to make awesome. That was a fun project. Thank you again to the team. Let's get on to the next fail. Any idea why this is happening? We've got a green part here that, I mean, it looks pretty good. I can tell what their issue is. They've got an issue with this slight discoloration here. I mean, honestly, I would call this like 99%. It's a beautiful print. The lines are great. There's not really a ton of wobble in it. You know, real clean, decent extrusion. My guess is this is a relatively high-speed 3D printer, and what is occurring here is during these layers, the printer is moving quite a bit slower, allowing the filament to warm up more on the hot end, and then changing the way that it looks when it comes out. If any of you have noticed with your bamboos, or maybe some of you that have the K1 now, or even Vorons, the faster you run your perimeters, the less shiny your parts tend to be, because you're running a ton of speed and you're not letting your filament get a lot of heat. That can cause the part to be a little more matte than you would expect. And yes, that does actually impact layer strength and quality. So be careful on that if you're making parts for strength. When you do something like a bridge here, the printer has to slow down to do it. During that slowdown, the filament is getting more of that heat as it prints. That is my best guess here. It could be something to do with the cooling as well, that you're running more cooling on your bridging, and we're seeing that as a slight little bit of shrink. But honestly, this is a damn good part. I would ship it. It's got a little bit of an anomaly. It literally just appears to be color. I don't see it as something that is a surface quality difference. If it is, it might be a little bit pulled in, which would make sense because there's a bit of a shadow. And if that's the case, too much cooling. And your bridge cooling is being affected on your perimeters as well. If that is the case, take a look at how you're doing your cooling for your bridging. If this is PLA, just run 100% cooling the whole time. It's fine. It can take it. And you shouldn't have these issues. But honestly, that's a beautiful part. Let's see what the comments say. They can think it's extra part cooling during bridging, maybe causing the plastic to cool and shrink and move a little bit, causing the slight misalignment. Yeah, totally agree. It is a shadow, so it is likely just shrinking a little bit from extra cooling. But unfortunately, I don't see anything regarding settings. And that would be so useful to know. What printer are you running? What settings are you running? What speed are you running? And all of that, because to not know those settings, we are kind of shooting in the dark. I don't even know if this is PLA. We know that they're using Super Slicer, which is fine. That is Prusa Slicer for control freaks, which is legitimately the best way to describe Super Slicer. We did a video on it so long ago. I have not used it since because it is there's too many things. At some point, a slicer gives you so many options, it stops being all that useful to me, and I want it to be more user-friendly rather than more just me shaking it to try to figure out what my problem is. I wouldn't worry about this. It's not that big of a deal. If you are trying to get perfect prints, go to resin, because honestly, these little bits of layer defects that you see are incredibly common with FDM. Hell, different diameters of filament as it varies during the spooling process will cause artifacts like this in some prints, depending on how bad that can actually be. Resin doesn't normally have this problem, assuming you do a good job of all your supports. I don't want to say lower your standards because that just seems like a real jerk thing to say, but you have a really good print here. And that little bit of misalignment is likely a cooling issue, but you put that in the hands of pretty much anybody and they're going to say that part looks beautiful. They're not going to sit there and nitpick it. Remember, at the end of the day, we are our biggest critics. And while you can certainly try to get a better quality print, at some point you're doing what a machinist would call chasing zeros. If you're at 99.9%, going to 99.99% is not that big of a jump, but it takes a ton of extra time. Now, I'm not saying to not chase those zeros, but set realistic expectations for what these machinery can do. That's an amazing part. It looks beautiful. With a little bit of tweaking on the cooling, I bet you could get that thing damn near 100%. So whatever you've been doing to get the rest of that to look that good, don't change it. You're doing pretty good. I think this makes a three-peat for the Nocturnist. We've got another submission from our Discord from the Nocturnist, who is dealing with some interesting layers on these flexible squirrel things. I honestly don't know what they are. I'm sure I can ask him. We'll link to it in the description, but I have no clue what this is. It's one of the Flexi models. I believe it's a Flexi Factory model. But we've got some issues here with rippling. And we've talked about this before, but I want to go over some of the basic things every now and then. And this is a great one to go over if you are dealing with this, because it's a really, really easy solution. Similar to the previous failure, it's cooling. It's literally just cooling. You don't have enough cooling here. So what is occurring is on that exterior perimeter, it's slowly shrinking and warping upwards as it does shrink, rather than cooling it instantly as soon as it's being put down. That's why we use so much cooling on printers, is so that it doesn't warp. And I know that that sounds counterintuitive. When we cool ABS down, it warps even more. With PLA, you can kind of lock it in place where it's at, and while it will have some exterior stresses that exist, annealing can fix that, but is pretty much not useful for most people because it disgustingly changes your dimensions. But for parts like this, you want to either look at slowing down your perimeters to give yourself more cooling, or up your cooling if that is an option, and we can see it gets real bad in some places. You gotta have more cooling. When you're working with PLA, from my understanding, more cooling, more better. While you don't want to have the filament be too cold coming out of the nozzle, if you can put just more fans on it, it tends to print well. And yes, I'm sure at some point there is a diminishing return. I'm expecting the next person to be like, well, what if I just take, you know, 2 cans of nitrous oxide and hook it up to my printer to cool down my PLA? What if I use liquid nitrogen? Der Bauer over here is going to be using liquid nitrogen to cool his PLA parts as they print, which is just ridiculous. Nobody is going to do that. And if you do that, send me the video. I guess we'll feature it on the channel, or hit me up and we'll get together and we'll do something that ridiculous, because I'm kind of down for that level of shenanigans. But this is just cooling. More cooling, more better when it comes to PLA. But of course, there is a diminishing return. Be careful with that. The Bamboo has an auxiliary part cooling fan. Why? Because you can't put enough cooling on the hot end. You gotta have an auxiliary part cooling fan. That is what the Bamboo does. So for something like this, if you are running out of cooling, but you don't want to slow anything down, you could even put like a desk fan that's blowing where you're printing. And as dumb as that sounds, it actually works pretty well. You'll need a couple of them, and you'll want to put them at the front corners, the back corners, but don't have the fans blowing into each other because they'll cancel each other out and the cooling no longer matters. Definitely slow down those outer perimeters or up your cooling, or both. Both is fine. Next up, a fail from a buddy of the channel. Tinkers says, as unlikely as it may seem, remember to check all possible causes for failure before blaming your retraction settings. We've got ourselves a big blob here, and this happened a lot back in the day. Pretty much non-existent now. Most filament companies, even the cheap ones, are hitting plus or minus 0.05 millimeter, which is amazing to see those numbers. And I've got some material that I'm testing. In fact, there. That's what you'll get to see of it. I cannot get it to print well. I can't talk about it yet. We have an NDA around it, but we are testing out some material that nobody else has ever tested before. Having some tough times. I'm pretty sure it's the chemical makeup of the material, but olden times, you would have to kind of check your filament. A lot of times we would end up using a piece of PTFE that we would put in the filament path. And if the filament couldn't pass through the PTFE, it would pull it into the hot end. And you would notice the fact that your PTFE isn't kind of loose anymore. It was tight, not moving. And that told us, hey, there's a bulge in the filament. We got to cut the filament, reload it, and likely restart the print, because back in the day, we didn't have machines with filament runout sensors. So we just kind of had to deal with it. I haven't seen this in a long time. I haven't had a spool with bad tolerances like that in absolute years. And shout out to Mr. Repcord himself, my buddy Alan, or Pooch, as a lot of you know him. But what about moisture in my filament? Can I blame that? No, you can't. This is not moisture, but it could be localized spot moisture applied with an eyedropper. Could be. I don't even know if I would think to check filament diameter anymore, because it is such an uncommon thing to have happen. But I'm glad that it was found out and resolved. We got a fail from our editor, Andrew. A lot of you kind of know Andrew, but don't really know Andrew.
Well, I was born, as most are, at the ripe age of 0, and raised in Florida, America's P.
He's the one responsible for the videos. So if you see cool edits that you like, it was probably Andrew, or me telling Andrew to do it, and then Andrew just listening to me. Andrew's our editor. Andrew finally took the plunge and got himself what we are coining on the channel as a Poverty Prusa, a Sovol SV06. And he printed out a part here, and he was wondering why the top layers are looking a little rough. He didn't even know what to look for, which is funny, because like, Andrew, you've edited like over 50 of these videos by now. I feel like we've talked about this like multiple times. It's over extrusion, for those that don't know, but it's over extrusion. I was hoping that like his knowledge of all these videos would help him, but I guess he kind of does these at like double speed and doesn't listen to me all the time, which is fair because I talk a lot. I'm sorry, but I'm not sorry. This is a pretty easy thing to solve though. This is just your top layers being slightly over extruded. Now you might be over extruding your entire part. It's pretty easy to check. You can do your steps per millimeter check, and then basically utilizing a formula, we'll link it below. You can check to see if you are actually extruding 100 millimeters, and if you are not, fix that, and then save it to the actual printer itself, because if you don't do that, the change isn't gonna hold. Andrew's been printing a lot of awesome stuff, and I'm excited to see him take the plunge. And unfortunately, I was in Colorado when he got his printer, and I wasn't there to enjoy his first benchy that he did with the stock white filament, and it pains me. That's really the fail in all of this, that Andrew used the white filament the printer came with. But he's got some awesome colors now, some of which are from Printed Solid. Gotta love Printed Solid. And he's making some parts for his parents, some parts for himself, some parts for his friends. It's a great thing with 3D printing. It's always a lot of fun. But that is over extrusion on your top layer. Now, it would be good to run a calibration cube, get a pair of calipers, even cheap ones from Harbor Freight, or your, pick your poison for cheap auto parts stores will be more than adequate in determining if your calibration cube is the right size. Might I recommend the Maker Viking one? We'll link to it below. Although, honestly, any of them are fine. Getting those measurements will tell you if you are over extruding, and you could look at just adjusting your extrusion multiplier. Chances are, if you fix your steps per millimeter first, you won't have to touch your extrusion multiplier, and you won't have too many issues. But glad to see that Andrew finally took the plunge, got himself a printer, so congratulations, dude. Good luck with it. We're here to help. Watch the videos. I should just be sending you videos that you edited when you have failures, so that would just be funny. But that is all that we really have for you guys today on this episode of PrintFix Friday. Now, with a Sony RX100 Gen 3 instead of the old Canon camcorder that we used to be using. Hope you all have enjoyed the upgrade in the camera quality. But stay safe out there. Don't forget to call your loved ones. And as always, keep making awesome. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Take care.
And then a witch cursed my head. That's why I don't need a hairbrush.
Hey, thanks so much for watching this video, and a massive thank goes out to all of our Patreon, PayPal, and YouTube channel member supporters whose names are listed right next to me at the $5 tier and higher. You can support the channel with a couple of bucks every month. Links in that description down below if you do want to do so. Right below me will be the entire PrintFix Friday series. We're coming up on episode 100. That means we're coming up on 2 years of doing these videos every single week, and I hope you guys have enjoyed them. Right next to that will be our trip to the Rocky Mountain Rep Rap Fest. There's a lot of content in there, over 3 hours. In 2 videos. So get your snacks and go enjoy those. I'll see you all down in those comments and the next one. Take care.